The world was rocked by Roy Clark's passing. But the story of his life was altered by what was discovered in his garage months after his passing. It turns out that we were mistaken to believe that we knew the quirky banjo player. You will be stunned by what was discovered. Before we reveal this astounding fact, though, let's take a moment to admire the guy whose ability and charm left us speechless for decades. His childhood. Clark was born to Hester Linwood Clark and Lillian Clark on April 15th in Meherrin, Virginia. He wasn't your usual firstborn, even though he was the eldest of 5 children. Firstborns are sometimes perceived as rigid and uninteresting, yet Clark was a free-spirited individual who was constantly seeking enjoyment. His father had attempted tobacco growing, but had failed. He therefore relocated in search of a steady employment to support his family. Grew up in New York City's Meherrin and Great Kills neighborhoods of Staten Island. In order to make ends meet during the Great Depression, his father took on odd occupations after relocating to New York City. Roy's father got a job at the Washington Navy Yard when he was 11 years old, thus the family moved again. In Washington, D.C., in the Washington Highlands neighborhood. By day, Roy's father worked on the railroads, but at night, he was someone else. He'd change out of his business clothes and dress like a semi-professional musician. That is where Clark's ancestry lies. Every night at the sawmill, his father performed on the guitar, banjo, and violin. Roy was enthralled as a child by his passion, which was evident in every note he played. He was influenced musically by more than just his father. His mother played the piano and loved music as well. Growing up, she performed some of the greatest songs Roy had ever heard, dedicating her life to each note. A youngster named Roy kept watching his father play. He was not the most attentive when it comes to his schoolwork because his mind was often wandering. Music was the only thing that captivated him. He had a deep passion with musical instruments, particularly stringed ones, and loved music. In primary school, Roy picked up a 4-string cigar box with a ukulele neck attached, which became his first musical instrument. Some people believe that he recognized that music would be his only career choice when he picked up that cigar box. He plucked strings, and trying to compose melodies took up his time instead of reading his books. Although the lyrics lacked polish, the feelings were genuine and unadulterated. After recognizing that his kid had a musical vocation, Roy's father made the decision to watch over him. According to Roy, his father once remarked, "Who knows, he might be the next big thing." Encouraged by his father's words of support, he started working harder at his musical ambition. Roy received piano lessons from his father, who was thrilled to have a son follow in his footsteps. Roy had a natural talent for playing stringed instruments, and the banjo was one of his strongest instruments. He played the stringed instruments as if he had been playing them all his life. When he won not one, but 2 national banjo championships at the age of 14, it became evident how talented he was. In 1952, Warrenton, Virginia, had been the second. $500 and a spot on the Grand Ole Opry were the contest prizes. That was when his professional career started. Roy was playing the mandolin, guitar, and banjo by then. When he played, his hands never faltered on the string, and his eyes gleamed. He played and sang passionately at every concert, demonstrating his love of music. He never ceased using comedy and always incorporated it into his presentation. He rose swiftly to the top of the American country music market thanks to his charm and upbeat demeanor. Many were surprised to learn that he was bashful at heart, even if he looked amazing on stage. He tried his best to make others laugh and covered his dread with jokes. When you were having a rough day, you would go to him and come away smiling. With him, there was never a dull moment. He had a lot of talent, but his heart was just as great. He remained committed to his actual objectives and refused to allow anyone to deter or divert him from his main goal, which was to succeed as a musician. He put all of his energy into pursuing his aim of showing the world his talent. His father realized that he wasn't someone you just kept hidden in Washington, D.C. After he won his first banjo tournament, the world needed to hear about Roy, who was a star. His father made up his mind and began taking him to concerts. He joined his father's band for his very first professional performance. The audience adored him. Since he was just 15, a lot of people found it fascinating that a teenager was engaging in such behavior. He was given a $2 bill after the show, but he didn't care about the money. As he performed and the audience applauded, he felt the compassion of the thrill. He wanted to maintain the sense of aliveness he had never experienced. People were thrilled while he played. He pursued his work over the years because he was passionate about the idea that his talent could make people happy. His family had a tough life. Because of their jobs, they had to relocate frequently. He therefore never really had the chance to form friendships. He took the tough choice to leave home and follow his goals when he was 17 years old. He was restless because he was driven to succeed. He was aware that he was capable of more. No matter how hard it was, he would choose to abandon his family even if it meant doing so. This dream, which he had cultivated for years, was greater than himself, not because he was heartless and unyielding. His profession and ascent to prominence. Clarke was a seasoned professional with a wealth of club and event performing experience by the time he was 20. He has even performed in Washington, D.C., and toured with Grandpa Jones, a member of the Country Music Hall of Fame, on a television station and briefly appeared on a program hosted by Hank Williams. Before long, Clarke was making appearances on the local town and country time radio and television broadcasts, as well as at concerts that Connie B. Gay promoted. He participated in Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scouts in the late 1950s, which was hosted by George Hamilton IV, which enhanced Clarke's standing. Despite finishing second in the competition, he had already established a strong following. He had played the lead guitar in the house band on the TV program Country Style. He had a remarkable ability to extract music from the strings. One of the highlights of the program was his performances. Everyone watched in awe as Clarke used his fingertips to create magic as soon as he pulled the chords. The fact that he composed his own music captivated a lot of people. He knew when to give and when to take. He was sincere and real. He performed as though he were narrating a tale that everyone was compelled to hear. Later, he was asked to join their band by rising country artist Jimmy Dean, who recognized his potential. He saw a musician with a golden heart when he looked at Clarke. He wanted to assist Clarke in realizing his aspirations since he was moved by his brilliance. He was also aware of the pressure to succeed in life by overcoming obstacles. He was thrilled with Clarke's direction and believed that he would revolutionize the industry like an unforged sword. Thus, he offered Clarke a position, doing what he could. But Clarke found it difficult to submit to authority. He consistently arrived late for rehearsals and performances. The thought of remaining under someone's control did not sit well with him. Being a band's lead guitarist wasn't enough for him. He was missing it. He felt like there was more, and he wanted more. He loved Dean as a brother and respected him, but he didn't want to spend his life playing lead guitar for Dean's band, the Texas Wildcats. After a heated argument between the two men, Dean finally had enough of dealing with Clarke's tardiness and fired him. He had to make the unpleasant choice in order to maintain discipline among his workforce. Being on time was something Dean valued and demanded of all his band members. Clarke was upset when Dean sacked him in 1957. He left Washington, D.C., in secret, and didn't ever go back there. He was a little let down by how things turned out, but he realized he had to keep trying. All he needed to do was shake himself free and carry on. Life wasn't all sunshine and roses. He was unable to get what he desired and win over everyone. Life was about taking on challenges and conquering them in order to realize your goals. This result didn't stop him. Rather, it inspired him to make his life better. He promised that such an event would never occur again. After learning, he would put in a lot of effort to improve himself. He eventually got his big break in Las Vegas after following his footsteps. He was hired as the lead guitarist and conductor of Wanda Jackson's band, the Party Timers, in 1960. He opened her show at the Golden Nugget Hotel in Las Vegas, led the group, and recorded with Jackson. His friendship with Jackson gave him access to opportunities that accelerated his ascent to stardom. His position in the music business was strengthened when he was able to land a recording deal with Capitol. The magic that his music offered was becoming more widely known, and people were devouring it. He performed for himself as well as the audience. Every time he was feeling down or missed home, he had to turn to music. Ultimately, it was all he had, and it was his bedrock. His multiple appearances as a guest and co-host on The Tonight Show are among his greatest accomplishments. In 1960, Jimmy Dean was asked to guest host The Tonight Show by its producers when Jack Paar was temporarily away. In an attempt to make amends with Clarke for their altercation, Dean invited him to perform on the final night of his guest hosting gig and featured Clarke in 2 songs. Jackson's former manager, Jim Hadley, had also taken a liking to Clarke. Jim believed that Clarke's career needed greater publicity. He was too gifted to play for other celebrities in the back zone. He needed to be in the limelight, where people could see and hear his music in all its splendor. He even secured Clark appearances as a guest on The Tonight Show in an attempt to persuade him to go solo. With a lot of support from friends, Clark decided it was time to go it alone after 3 years of honing his abilities and knowledge. In January 1963, Johnny made his Tonight Show debut as a solo performer. Clark couldn't seem to locate a place anywhere, so he made this decision. He could not accomplish this as long as he performed for other people, since his music was something that people needed to hear, complete and unadulterated. Without outside influence, he had to use his music to express his own story. Particularly during his formative years as a musician, he had always felt alone and misinterpreted. Many of his classmates avoided the music industry, which he had entered at a young age. He therefore had no one his own age to hang out with. He relied solely on music to get him through those times. As his career developed, he earned the moniker Lightning Fingers, which many believed he didn't deserve. He was continuously challenged to one pickoff or another for a while. Eventually, it became clear that the title was truly earned. Established his reputation with other guitarists and fans alike in the 1960s country music scene. Before he left, he made sure everyone he encountered understood that he had a formidable presence on stringed instruments. In addition to his musical career, Clark rose to fame on television. Clark then made an appearance on the American sitcom The Beverly Hillbillies, which aired on CBS from 1962 to 1971. He frequently played the roles of Roy Halsey, a businessman, and Roy's mother, Myrtle. Along with Molly B. and Rusty Draper, he co-hosted the NBC country variety show Swingin' Country during the week in 1965. Slow ratings later led to the show's cancellation after 2 seasons. In 1969, he had his big break. When Hee Haw, a comedy show that ran from 1969 to 1997, was hosted by Clark and Buck Owens for the first time. It was this program that made Clark famous. He was down-to-earth, witty, zany, and talented. According to reports, from 1969 to 1971, he was the highest-paid country concert star. The Country Music Association named him Entertainer of the Year in 1973. However, he kept his composure despite his success. He was modest and remained loyal to himself. He wasted time attempting to be the epitome of what other people wanted him to be. No matter what life threw at him, he made an effort to stay positive. He has experienced love, loss, and rekindled love. People make assumptions about you based on what they see and understand because they don't know you. Additionally, they frequently result in inaccurate interpretations. He had expectations for his life and his music, and he refused to let anyone tell him otherwise. From the early 1960s to the early 1980s, they had a run of hits. His most well-known songs were Yesterday When I Was Young, which was in Billboard's Top 10 Country Hits in 1969, and Come Live With Me, which peaked at #1 on the country singles list in 1973. The most important thing, he became involved in a variety of things as he gained fame throughout Hee Haw's time. He joined a group of well-known musicians called the $1 Million Band, who created the Nashville sound, and took part in numerous comedic sketches. He didn't mention his work or his level of celebrity when asked what he thought was the most significant part of his life. It was his family, he claimed. The fact that he could name the people in his life family made him feel so secure and proud. They were irreplaceable to him. They supported him constantly and pushed him to improve. They helped him bring out the best in him and served as his inspiration on numerous occasions. In 1954, he wed Ruby Connolly for the first time of his 2 marriages. Roy Linwood Clark Jr. was their kid together, and 3 years later they were divorced. They split up, according to some, because he was too busy traveling from town to town and doing shows. Some say it's because he met Barbara Joyce Rupert, his second wife. It should be noted that he married Barbara the same year he was divorced. They created a large family, similar to the one he grew up in, by having 4 more children together. He died of pneumonia-related complications at his Tulsa home in 2018. The most important thing to him was his family. It was evident in his speech and the pride he expressed when discussing his kids. They have been his biggest supporters throughout his musical career, and he has always regarded them as such. Even though he was traveling from concert to show all the time, they always knew that his passion for music could not be controlled. When he was on stage, they cheered the loudest and hanged his shoes. He learned how to be more stable and concentrate on the important things from his family. Fame and fortune could vanish in an instant. However, family love persisted. Your family would always support you, even if you made mistakes and the world turned against you. At least his father had taught him such values, and he planned to do the same for his kids. He wanted them to understand the significance of creating a home where they could genuinely belong and feel loved and accepted. Looking good for the camera wasn't the point. It was about making sure they had each other's backs as well as his. Without any kind of hostility, they had to learn how to love and do it without conditions. This is why everyone, especially his family, was shocked by what was discovered in the garage of his Tulsa home. Because they thought everything he had stored in the garage was rubbish, no one had gone inside for years. A massive wooden trunk that didn't belong in a room full of motor components and other equipment was found when his first son opened the garage to clean it out. It was positioned next to a wooden table and chair in the center of the garage. Someone had clearly been visiting this place for years. Years of neglect were evident in the truck's fine layer of dust. His curiosity got the better of him, and he decided to open the trunk in an instant. His eyes watered at the contents of the trunk. It was a huge, brightly colored portrait of a family. However, it was not its enormity that was most noticeable, but rather the broad smiles on everyone's faces. The photo was taken following one of his performances. Everyone started laughing after Clark said something amusing when they were all together. After observing the entire incident, the cameraman decided it was time for a picture. Like Clark Sr. when he began his career, Roy Leewood Jr. was a teenager at the time, brimming with energy and vitality. His kid examined the image, paying particular attention to the man who had seemed larger than life. His father had dedicated his life to the music industry, and he had received much in return. Music was the only thing Clark loved more than his family. No one could ever fill the place in his heart that music held. He was a born performer who was prepared to sacrifice everything for the cause of music and had a thorough understanding of the structure of the music business. Clark Sr. made sure his family stayed united even though they were under constant media and press attention. Clark placed a strong emphasis on keeping his family together despite certain rumors that threatened to split his house and cause arguments. He had already begun a family, but it had ended in divorce. He was resolved to do the right thing with Barbara. He discovered more within than only the portrait. There were correspondences to friends and relatives. In addition, the greatest prize of all was hidden beneath those structures. An old guitar that appeared to have been played too often. It appeared to be in danger of collapsing at any moment and was worn out with a few broken strings. Inside was a letter that detailed what was going through Clark's mind and provided a counterbalance to the recent discoveries. Chaos reigned, particularly in relation to the letters. Letters were sent to his family, well-known country music artists, and even to himself. He had been concerned that the world of show business and celebrity may eventually cause him to lose himself. He didn't want to forget his identity or his origins. He had no intention of running away from his roots. Rather, he wanted to make sure that he accepted his past because it helped shape who he was now. He didn't feel guilty about his origins. Without the hardships and disappointments he encountered in his early years, his entire life would not be complete. He wasn't going to conceal any aspects of himself and give the impression that he was flawless from the start of his profession. Indeed, he erred in his youth, and as he grew older and more well-known, he faced greater pressure. Feelings he was unable to explain, pressure he never discussed. Instead of attempting to conceal his suffering and nervousness, he had gone into the garage and wrote heartfelt lyrics. Lyrics that may be unfamiliar to many. His songs talked about the difficulties he faced and how lonely they had felt at times. The genuine Clark was portrayed in these songs, which covered every facet of the kid categories. He was not flawless. However, he was a living, breathing, loving man. He and the rest of us were the same. He was a child once. He was a family man. He had been rejected. He wasn't a quitter, though. He should have felt inadequate in certain situations, yet he refused to give up. Despite the odds, he persevered until he was able to defend his own. His cheerful smile had a strange way of calming you down and giving you the impression that he was laughing with you in private. He worked diligently and hardly ever requested vacation days or breaks. Rain or shine, he was always there, both in health and in illness. He tried not to make people feel sorry for him by hiding his anxieties and fears beneath a cheerful smile. Everywhere he went, People recognized him and his life was stable. One of the highlights of his life was being inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2009. He had written his heart out in that garage because he was unable to adequately convey how he felt. He was unable to attend therapy, as recommended. His only kind of rehabilitation was music. Music became his everything while he was feeling lost, and no one seemed to understand. He highlighted the importance of unity in his work and his writings. He talked about how respect had helped him get to places he never would have imagined. He also discussed how he lost his place in Dean's band as a result of his disrespect. These letters were filled with messages from a parent who had a lot of information to impart despite knowing he didn't have much time left. He advised him to never give up on their aspirations and to always be kind. "But don't you dare give up," he wrote. "While some individuals are rooting for you to fail, there are also some who are supporting you. Shame on those who criticize your success. Don't be lazy. Keep going." It was enlightening to discover what had been concealed in the garage. As they read the letters their father left them, his kids sobbed while holding their hands. Messaged with encouragement and hope. Particularly when they missed him, it seemed as though he had left a part of his soul for them. Despite the fact that he was already gone, he has prepared comfort. Was he aware of his limited time? Many questions were left unanswered by the letters. The portrait was taken by his family and displayed on their living room wall. They placed it there so that each time they looked at it, their father's entire face would light up with a smile that never seemed to go away. His legacy endures in the songs and roles he left behind, despite his passing. The news of his death shocked his fans. An icon seemed to have vanished forever. His music won him a lot of admirers. Fans adored him because of his laid-back demeanor. He never pretended to be superior to others and was not arrogant. His clever retort to co-host Buck Owens, "I'm a feelin', I'm a pickin'," was hilarious. For 20 years, Clark was the host of the program, captivating the hearts of more than 30 million viewers. Ironically, he did not complete high school, but his contributions to his hometown of Tulsa, Oklahoma, were recognized with the naming of an elementary school in his honor. Nonetheless, his contributions demonstrated his appreciation for education. He maintained his humility despite his achievements. In one interview, he talked of performing for the Princess of Monaco and how, despite having dropped out of college, he was humbled to sing happy birthday to her at her table. He was not broken by any of the difficulties and barriers he encountered. Rather, they strengthened his determination to succeed at all costs. Stars are composed of that, a will that is difficult to break and a resolve that endures no matter what. Regarding Roy Clark's life, what can you say? Leave a comment below with your opinions. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. I'll see you later.